Hi Susan, this is Mike from Stagecoach Road Sewing, and this is your Pfaff. She's a beauty. As usual, there's a little bit of crazing in the paint. That's pretty much to be expected. I don't think I've ever seen a Pfaff 130 that didn't have some amount of crazing. This is your foot control. I put an electronic foot control on her because it gives you a little better control of your speed, and just in general, it's a better foot control than the old rheostat type. And you may already know this machine real well and have used it before, but just in case, we'll go over a few things about the controls. This is the final test, just to be sure that everything's working as it should be. And we'll start by winding a bobbin, and you put your spool on the spool pin, go over the upper thread guide here. It's got a little bit of tension to it. Go between the tension discs of your bobbin winder tension, and then into your bobbin. Put the thread through the little hole there and hold on to the tail. There we go. And it's going to wind this way, so we'll put a few wraps on it. Because it's going to wind overhand that way. Turn it until the pin seats into the, oh, I guess it's only on that side. How about that? Get back up here. This little hole that I put the thread through is the place where the pin on the bobbin winder seats to hold it as you wind your bobbin. So make sure that seats onto the pin there, and then give it a few wraps just to hold the thread in place while it winds. Press down and you're ready to go. Back off your clutch knob in the hand wheel about 1/8 of a turn, and that'll keep the whole machine from cycling while the bobbin winds. And then gently press on the foot control. You don't have to go real fast. And you can cut that tail off once it's securely set up. There we go. So we're not going to wind the whole bobbin, we'll just wind a part of a bobbin, just for test purposes. Yeah, it's winding nice and even. You're going to want to leave a little bit of tail here on your bobbin thread. Maybe 4 or 5 inches. The easiest way to access your bobbin is from below rather than through this live plate. You can do it, but it's easier if you go to the side. Make sure your needle is in the up position. You don't want it down in the bobbin case when you try to pull the bobbin case out. We'll set aside this other bobbin. You want your thread to come off over the top this way, because the little slot in the side of your bobbin case slants in the other direction. You want it to do that. Pull your thread up under the leaf spring until it clicks into place, and we're ready to rock and roll. I'm going to give that hair more attention. When you adjust the tension, if you ever need to, on your bobbin case, you turn the bigger screw and you turn it just like 1/8 of a turn at a time and test the feel of it. But a little bit of resistance, but not much at all. If you hold the little lever on the side of your bobbin case, it locks the bobbin in place so it doesn't fall out while you're putting it into the machine. And that lever is going to point towards the hand wheel of the machine, that little handle thing. So that's your bobbin. And to thread the machine, you put your spool on the spool pin, go under the first thread guide, over that second thread guide that's got a little bit of tension on it, between the discs of the upper tension assembly, all the way up and around until you can catch the check spring, which is right here, under the big thread guide on the side. And now when you pull it, your check spring should move. That way you'll know that you've got it right. Into this big thread guide here, and then through the take-up lever. Down into this thread guide on the front. This thread guide down here on the needle clamp. And then through the needle that way, towards the back of the machine. Make sure you don't get wrapped around the needle by mistake. Now hold on to the tail of your thread, turn the hand wheel towards, tighten the clutch knob again. We loosened it for the bobbin winding. Turn the hand wheel towards you, one full turn. That will wrap the thread around the bobbin case and pick up your lower thread. Got to make it a full turn or it won't pull it up. We've got both threads up here. You want to go between the toes of the presser foot and towards the back of the machine. And then we're ready to sew. This is about 3 layers of heavy denim from a pair of Carhartts. This is the front leg that's got the additional protection on it, additional layer of denim for protection. And there are a couple of batt seams that we're going to go over. That'll have maybe 6 layers in them. Hold your threads for the first couple of stitches, just to set the lock stitch. And then we're ready to rock and roll. This is your feed drop control here on the bed. You want the feed drop to be turned all the way counterclockwise, only like a quarter turn either way. And that raises your feed dogs. If you want to drop your feed dogs to embroider or to do some mending, you turn it clockwise a quarter turn, and that drops the feed. It'll go fast, but you don't need the speed. That's a good way to break your thread. Look at that batt seam there. You can go fast if you want. Heavy seams. Slow down for that one. This is your stitch length control. Up is forward, down is reverse. The further you go from 0, either up or down, the longer your stitches will be. The closer you get to 0, the shorter your stitches will be. And if you want to do like a satin stitch or a real close zigzag, you want to get down close to 0. Excuse me. But when you get really close to 0, the thread kind of makes a little raised hump as you make your satin stitch, and that can bind up under the foot. So you want to use a satin stitch foot that's got a channel down the middle just for that purpose. I don't see one in this set. You may or may not be able to see that channel there in the bottom of the presser foot. We'll get a little closer, see if we can focus on that. Anyway, I'm going to put that in your set. So let's do some zigzag. This is your stitch width control, and that controls how wide your zigzag is going to be. Let's move it all the way out. Right there was a bad thing. Always raise your needle up out of the fabric before you change your stitch width, because you could potentially bend your needle that way. Reverse, forward, reverse, forward. This knob here is your sewing foot pressure. For heavy fabric, you're going to want to have just a little bit more pressure. For lighter fabric, you want to have a little less pressure, and you can screw it down for more pressure or screw it up for less pressure. It's set pretty medium right now, even though we're sewing heavy stuff here. The light is over here, of course. Anything else? That's all I can think of. Oiling. Excuse me. You're going to want to take off your face plate, remove the needle plate, that's just 2 screws, and brush out all the dust and lint that's under there, vacuum it, do the same under your face plate, and remove this cover in the back here. Your light's attached to it, your light will come off too, and refer to your manual for all of the oiling points, but you want to use good sewing machine oil, and you want to put 1 drop in each of these locations. You'll see oil holes for some, you'll see little ball bearing oiling points for others. For others, it's just a hole, but your manual will show you where to put that oil. On the bottom, same thing. You want to brush it off and vacuum it out, and then put 1 drop of oil at each oiling point. And if you're using your machine every day, you're going to want to oil it every day or 2. If you use it once in a while. You want to oil it at least once a month. If your machine's been on the shelf for a month or two and you bring it out to sew, excuse me, you want to oil it before you start because the oil evaporates over time. So if you keep it cleaned and oiled, she'll last you for years and years and years, for the rest of your life and probably your children's life too, and your grandchildren maybe, and so on. Gosh, that's all I can think of. We'll get her packed up and shipped out today, and it was a pleasure restoring this machine for you, and I hope that you enjoy it. Yeah, happy sewing.